Imagine waking up on a summer morning, eagerly anticipating the gentle embrace of sunlight, only to be met with an oppressive, suffocating wall of heat as soon as you step outside. The air feels thick, your skin prickles, and the city itself shimmers under the relentless, burning rays. Now, imagine this is not merely uncomfortable. It is outright dangerous. For hundreds of millions of people worldwide, extreme heat has shifted from an occasional inconvenience to a deadly, daily reality. This is not the plot of some far-off dystopia. This is happening around us, here and now, with consequences far more severe than most people can imagine. Let's start with a stark example. In the summer of 2024, a brutal heat wave swept across Europe. According to a landmark, peer-reviewed study, this single event caused more than 2,300 excess deaths in major European cities alone. Even more alarming is the finding that the majority of these deaths can be directly attributed to climate change. The science is unambiguous. The warming planet is not just an abstract idea. It is killing us. As global temperatures continue to climb and records are shattered year after year, the world's top climate scientists are united in their warning. Climate change kills. But how did we reach this crisis point? For thousands of years, humanity has endured heat waves, adapting as best we could. Yet the last few decades have marked a dangerous shift. Heat waves are no longer rare or moderate. They are now more frequent, longer lasting, and reaching temperatures that would have seemed unimaginable just a generation ago. The scientific consensus is clear. Extreme heat events are being supercharged by global warming, itself driven by human emissions of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane. Let's look at the data. The World Meteorological Organization, one of the world's most trusted authorities on climate, now identifies extreme heat as the leading cause of weather-related deaths globally. The numbers are staggering. Every year, more than 5 million people die due to exposure to abnormal temperatures. The vast majority of these deaths occur in urban areas, where the so-called urban heat island effect can push temperatures up to 7 degrees Celsius higher than in the surrounding countryside. Asphalt, concrete, and steel absorb and radiate heat, transforming modern metropolises into vast ovens during summer months. This isn't just a matter of discomfort. It is a direct threat to survival. It is not only our health at stake. The economic ramifications are enormous. The Global Cooling Watch, an independent research group, estimates that in the year 2024 alone, heat waves will cause economic losses exceeding $1.1 trillion, nearly 1% of the world's entire gross domestic product. Imagine erasing almost 1% of global economic output in a single year, simply because of heat. In the United States, the toll is equally jaw-dropping. Extreme heat now drains American society of more than $100 billion each year, mainly through lost labor productivity. Consider the millions of workers, construction crews, delivery drivers, farmhands, factory employees, slowing down or halting work altogether because it is just too dangerous to continue. Agriculture is under siege as well. By the middle of this century, wheat production losses alone could reach as high as 9% globally, threatening food security for billions of people. But the story does not end there. The environmental impacts of heat waves ripple outwards, touching every aspect of life. Rivers dry up, threatening both drinking water supplies and hydroelectric power generation. Forests become tinderboxes, sparking wildfires that devastate ecosystems and fill the air with toxic smoke. Urban infrastructure groans under the strain. Roads warp, railways bend, and power grids buckle as demand for cooling soars. The European Environment Agency projects that in Europe alone, heat-related deaths could rise by as much as 50% by the year 2050, unless bold, coordinated action is taken. The United States faces a similar threat. A landmark study published in the journal Nature predicts that, in the southeastern region of the United States, heat-related deaths could skyrocket by an astonishing 370% by the year 2060. So why is this happening? The science is now undeniable. Human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, have driven up the concentration of greenhouse gases in Earth's atmosphere to levels not seen in at least 800,000 years. This traps more of the sun's energy, heating the planet and supercharging weather extremes, including heat waves. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the world's foremost authority on climate science, warns that even if we limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the frequency of extreme heat waves could nearly triple. If temperatures rise further, the dangers multiply exponentially, threatening to destabilize societies and ecosystems alike. Behind these statistics are deeply human stories. In the European heat wave of 2003, more than 70,000 people died, many of them elderly, isolated, or already in poor health. Hospitals were overwhelmed, morgues ran out of capacity, and families were left in anguish. Fast forward to today, and the threat has become even more acute. Vulnerable groups, children, the elderly, the poor, outdoor workers, bear the brunt of this crisis. In India, during the record-shattering heat wave of 2019, people stood in line for hours to fill a single bucket with water as reservoirs dried up. In California, farm workers risked their lives harvesting crops in fields scorched by the sun, while wildfires raged only miles away. These are not isolated incidents. They are becoming the new normal in our increasingly hot world. Let's widen the lens. The economic future is at risk. If current trends persist, the world could face a cascade of financial disasters triggered by heat waves. Insurance companies are already sounding the alarm, as rising claims from heat-related damages threaten to destabilize the entire industry. The cost of adapting cities, installing green roofs, upgrading air conditioning systems, redesigning public spaces, could approach nearly $500 billion globally by the end of this decade. Yet, the cost of doing nothing would be far greater. Lost productivity, damaged infrastructure, crop failures, and ballooning health costs could easily exceed adaptation investments many times over. Cities are at the front line of the heat crisis. Urban centers act as magnets for economic activity, innovation, and culture, but they are especially vulnerable to climate-driven heat. The urban heat island effect means that cities like Paris, Madrid, New Delhi, Phoenix, and Shanghai are heating up faster and more intensely than their rural surroundings. During recent heat waves, Paris saw nighttime temperatures remain stubbornly above 30 degrees Celsius for days, offering no respite to residents, many of whom lack air conditioning. Hospitals in Paris reported record-high admissions for heat stroke, dehydration, and cardiac emergencies. In Tokyo, the government was forced to open public cooling centers, distribute water to the homeless, and issue emergency warnings as the mercury soared to unprecedented heights. It is not just the world's major cities that are at risk. Smaller towns and rural communities are also vulnerable, often lacking the resources and infrastructure to cope with searing heat. In the American Midwest, farmers are facing declining yields and parched fields. Across the African continent, millions are at risk of hunger as drought and heat waves decimate crops and livestock. The ripple effects are global. Food prices spike, supply chains are disrupted, and political instability grows as communities and nations compete for scarce resources. The health impacts are especially severe for children, the elderly, and people with chronic conditions. Extreme heat worsens respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, increases the risk of kidney failure, and exacerbates mental health problems. According to The Lancet, one of the world's most respected medical journals, climate change is now the single greatest global health threat of the 21st century. Dr. Maria Thompson, a leading researcher at The Lancet, puts it bluntly. These heat waves are not random events. They are the direct, predictable result of a warming planet. Without immediate action, we risk a humanitarian disaster on a scale never before seen. What does the future hold if we continue on this trajectory? The projections are sobering, if not outright alarming. By the year 2100, over 1 billion people could be living under persistent, life-threatening heat stress. Some regions, parts of the Middle East, South Asia, and the American Southwest, could become almost uninhabitable for weeks or even months each year. The World Bank warns that climate-driven heat could push up to 100 million people into poverty by mid-century. Mass migrations, social unrests, and even geopolitical conflicts could become more prevalent as people escape unlivable regions, seeking safety and opportunity elsewhere. Yet, there is hope, and adaptation is possible. The United Nations Environment Program underscores the importance of investing in green infrastructure such as parks, urban forests, and rooftop gardens to cool cities and protect vulnerable populations. Singapore has pioneered vertical gardens, green roofs, and extensive shaded walkways to reduce urban temperatures and enhance livability. Paris has created cooling islands, public spaces with water fountains, shade, and reflective surfaces to offer relief during heat waves. In Melbourne, city planners have mapped out tree canopies to maximize shade, boost biodiversity, and lower temperatures by several degrees. Engineering solutions are also vital. Reflective materials for rooftops and pavements can deflect sunlight and help lower urban temperatures. Painting streets lighter colors, installing water features, and designing cities to promote airflow are all proven strategies. More efficient and accessible air conditioning, especially when powered by renewable energy, can save lives during the worst heat waves. Improved building codes, mandatory heat action plans, and early warning systems are already making a difference in cities like Toronto, Athens, and Seoul. But adaptation is not just a job for governments. Every individual can play a role. Supporting local initiatives, like community tree planting, urban gardens, and water conservation projects, can make a tangible difference. Advocating for better public transportation, using energy-efficient appliances, and adopting personal habits that reduce energy use all help build collective resilience. Employers can shift work hours, provide cooling breaks, and ensure that outdoor workers have access to shade and hydration. For businesses, investing in climate-resilient operations is no longer just the right thing to do. It is essential for long-term survival. Let's not ignore the lessons of history. The American Dust Bowl of the 1930s is a stark reminder of how poor land management, drought, and soaring temperatures can turn once fertile land into barren wasteland, forcing millions to migrate and plunging families into poverty. The European heatwave of 2003 killed tens of thousands, exposed major gaps in public health systems, and left a lasting scar on the continent's collective memory. These disasters show that society's choices and its failures have deep, long-lasting consequences. Today, the stakes could not be higher. We are in an era where human actions are reshaping the planet itself. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warns that the window for decisive action is closing fast. Doing nothing risks crossing irreversible tipping points, melting polar ice, collapsing ecosystems, runaway feedback loops that could render large parts of the world uninhabitable for centuries. But there is a silver lining. The cost of adapting to extreme heat by the end of this decade, while significant at nearly $500 billion globally, is far less than the cost of inaction. The Global Cooling Watch estimates that ambitious cooling policies and adaptation investments could prevent trillions of dollars in future losses. Prevention is not just a moral imperative. It is smart economic strategy. All over the world, innovative solutions are emerging. In Greece, traditional wisdom meets modern technology as whitewashed buildings reflect sunlight and narrow streets provide natural shade. In Israel, advanced drip irrigation and climate-resilient crops help farmers thrive despite blistering summers. In the Netherlands, cities are reimagining canals and green spaces to manage both heat and flooding. Even in the world's hottest cities, Dubai, Riyadh, and Abu Dhabi, urban planners are experimenting with shaded walkways, cool roofs, and cutting-edge cooling systems to protect residents from deadly heat. Education and awareness save lives too. Early warning systems, public cooling centers, and community outreach programs are critical during heat waves. Governments can develop heat action plans that offer targeted support to the most vulnerable, distributing water, providing temporary shelter, and ensuring medical care is accessible. Schools and workplaces can educate people about the dangers of heat, emphasizing the importance of staying hydrated and seeking shade during the hottest hours. On the policy front, there is a global movement to integrate climate adaptation into every area of governance. From urban planning and transportation to healthcare and emergency response, leaders are realizing that resilience to extreme heat must be a central goal. International cooperation is vital. Climate change respects no borders. Sharing best practices, funding adaptation in the world's poorest countries, and investing in scientific research and new technologies can help build a safer, more sustainable future for everyone. The private sector is awakening to both the risks and the opportunities of a hotter world. Insurance companies are designing new products to cover heat-related losses. Technology firms are inventing smarter cooling systems and more resilient construction materials. Investors are pouring funds into sustainable infrastructure and renewable energy, recognizing that climate resilience is not just good for the planet, it is good for business. But urgency is critical. The next few years will determine whether we adapt and thrive or stumble into disaster. Scientists stress that every fraction of a degree of warming matters. The difference between 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius of warming is not academic. It could mean tens of millions of additional lives at risk, hundreds of billions of dollars in economic losses, and entire regions becoming unlivable. What can you do? Start by staying informed and sharing what you learn. Share this video with your friends, your family, and your community. Support leaders and policies that take climate adaptation seriously. Get involved in local projects. Volunteer at community gardens. Join tree planting drives, or help organize a neighborhood cooling center. Use your voice to demand urgent action from businesses, governments, and institutions. Every step counts, and together, we can build resilience. Let's look even further into the future. Experts warn that by the end of the century, as many as 1.2 billion people could be exposed to extreme heat stress. Living in regions where spending more than a few hours outdoors could be deadly, without access to shade, water, and cooling. High-emission scenarios suggest that parts of South Asia, the Middle East, and Central America may see heat and humidity levels that exceed the limits of human survivability for days or even weeks at a time. Such conditions could trigger mass migrations, reshape global economic patterns, and lead to geopolitical instability on a previously unimaginable scale. But we have the tools to choose a different path. Advances in technology, such as highly efficient cooling systems, innovative materials, and artificial intelligence-driven climate modeling, offer hope for smarter, more adaptive cities and communities. Social changes, like shifting work hours to cooler parts of the day, integrating green spaces into every urban plan, and empowering local communities to take climate action, are just as important. The path we take will define not just our own future, but that of generations to come. This is a turning point in human history. For centuries, we have adapted to nature's extremes with creativity and determination. Now, with our collective ingenuity and shared purpose, we can rise to meet the greatest challenge of our time. The science is clear. The warnings are urgent. The solutions are within our reach. What happens next depends on the choices we make together and individually. If you believe in a safer, cooler, and more prosperous future, now is the time to act. Demand change from your leaders, embrace innovation, and help build climate resilience in your community. Every degree truly matters. And united, we can tip the balance away from disaster and toward